Greetings, this is Khalid Aljassim. Today I've come up to present my solution towards Bahrain International Airport. This is IT 7004 Operating Systems and Platforms course. I'm presenting to Bahrain International Airport IT Department a solution for email communication system. My project is called Postal Mail Server. Today I will walk you through hardware and software requirements as well as step-by-step installation and configuration process. Here is my table of contents and here is my purpose. The purpose of building Postal Email Server is to have full control of our email server and domain name, to have our servers locally configured, to have greater uptime, to minimize single point of failures, and to manage sending newsletters from single department to all departments of Bahrain International Airport. Next, we have hardware components for host machine. Host operating system version Windows 10 Home 64-bit. Processor Intel Core i7 7500U, CPU 2.7 GHz, installed RAM 16 GB and 64-bit operating system, storage is 2 TB hard disk. Next we have hardware components for virtual machine. VMware operating system Ubuntu 16.04.7 LTS denial zeros, 64-bit PC, AMD processor. Memory is 8 GB and 2 processors. Hard disk is 20 GB. Network adapter is NAT, and here we have additional information. Next we have software components for host machine. I'm using VMware Workstation 16 Pro, version 16.0, and I'm using the ISO image of Ubuntu 16.04.7, desktop image. Next, we have software components for virtual machine operating system. Those are the softwares that I used within the version. We have 10 softwares here. Next, downloading the project prerequisites. Here I went to the Ubuntu official web page and downloaded the desktop image of Ubuntu 16.04.7. Here I have the previously downloaded Workstation 16 Pro, and now I will start creating a new virtual machine. Next, setting the selected recommended typical installation. Next, browsing the ISO file. As you can see here, it's detected Ubuntu 64-bit server. Next, setting up the virtual machine name as Postal Email Server. Next, we set the capacity size of 40 GB. Next, here we verify our configuration. We click Finish. Then we boot up our power on the Postal Email Server. Next, we can see we are running Ubuntu operating system, and then we start by logging in, putting our credentials, password as Postal. Now, we install the Ruby software. Here is the package dependency. Now installing the Ruby repository, and then updating the system to update all the files and packages. And now we are installing the Ruby software. Next, we are installing Ruby Gems, which is a bundler to help Ruby runs smoothly. And then we install another gem called Crocodile. Next, we are here installing databases. We have MySQL and MariaDB. Next, we install MySQL Secure Installation and all those configurations shown. Then setting up database for Postal and entering the MySQL database using a user called root and password called Postal. And then granting all permissions for user named Postal and giving it a password Khalid123 and flashing the privileges. Next, we have installing Rabbitmq, and now this command shows that we are installing the Rabbit dependency package called Erlang. Next, here we can see signing key for Rabbitmq from their server and adding their repository. Updating the systems to update all the files and packages. Next, we install the Rabbitmq server. Next, setting up Rabbitmq, starting the Rabbitmq server, adding the virtual host. Next, we're installing the softwares get and node.js. Now, using the command sudo -i to log in as a root, so we don't have to every time write sudo before writing any command to install a software. Next, we install the node.js. Now, we install our main software, which is Postal. Now, we exited the root user. Now we are on the Postal user, sudo -i, -u postal, and then we create the directory of opt/postal/app. Then we install the Postal bundle. Next, we initialize the Postal configuration, creating the keys, and then creating the Postal database. Now we have to create the Postal user. The email address will be khalid@bia.com, which is BIA stands for Bahrain International Airport. First name and last name presented here. Password will be Khalid123. Then we start the Postal service. Here, this image shows the Postal status. As we can see, web is running, worker is running, cron is running, SMTP server is running too. Now configuring Nginx and reverse proxy. Now we are installing certbot. Now we are configuring the cron tab to specify when the Postal service to run. Now we start the Postal service and view the Postal status. As we can see, Postal status is active, running. And now we can view the Nginx status, which is up, active, and running. And now we access the web portal for Postal with the email address that we recently created, khalid@bia.com, with the password Khalid123. Next, we create our organization, which is the name Bahrain International Airport, and then we create our mail server. Then we will call it BIA mail, then we'll set the mode to live. Okay, then we have to create our domain. Now we will go and install a new software called Bind9. Here we can see this command to install Bind9, which will act as a DNS server. Installing Bind9 dependency package called DNS utilities. And now we are configuring the named.conf.options for Bind9, setting forwarder's IP address to our server IP address. And now configuring the file so we can have our local zones, BIA.com and the reverse proxy zone. And now we configure our main database for the DNS. We set our DNS configurations here. The name server and the text, SPF, and all the configurations. Next, we configure our postal.yml to the DNS configurations that we did recently. Then we restart the Bind9 service, and view the status of bind9, which is up, active, and running. Now we have to dig to test bind9 configuration if it is successful or not. We use the command dig tag x, then our server IP address, to see if it resolves the domain name or no. And then we have the output of authority section. We can see that it's successfully resolved the domain name as bia.com. And then we have our email address, which is khalid@bia.com. Next, we need to configure and we need to verify our domain name it is resolved by IP address. So we ping our domain bia.com and we can see successful pinging for the IP address of our domain 192.168.32.130. And by now we reached the end of our project. Everything is successful and it was like smooth, and all the softwares and hardware requirements, all the step-by-step installation process, and all the references is here. And thank you for your time.